Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
Okay, welcome. I'm going to, for the sake of the school board members, principal, and superintendent over there, I'm just going to explain with these microphones. They're all muted right now. If you want to speak, just press the power mute button and then press it again when you're done so the wind doesn't continue to interfere. Okay, we're going to move on to the school district annual meeting of the Westminster Town School District. So Article 16, actually I want to pause a second and thank the school and thank Westminster Cares for providing food. It was necessary. Okay, Article 16, to hear the reports of the Westminster Town School District officers and to take action thereon. And this will be a good opportunity for the people here to introduce themselves and also perhaps to give a little explanation about the paper that was just handed out, Cheryl. So at my far left is Andy Haas, who is the superintendent. And Andy, do you want to just say a few words to start with? Introduce yourself and say a few words.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Andy Haas. I'm superintendent of schools. To say that this year has been interesting is, I think, an understatement, but I want to thank all of our teachers and administrators who have made this year possible for our students, because it has been a challenging year for us. I think the budget that is in front of you is well thought out, and we've tried to take the appropriate actions to make sure that our students here in Westminster are getting the best education that we can provide for them. So thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Liz Hardy, principal.
Hello, I'm Liz Hardy. I'm the principal of Westminster Center School for the past 2 years. I'm also a resident of Westminster. My husband and I are raising our 2 girls here as well. This year we have 154 students, as you might have read in my town report. We have 154 students. We'll likely have that same number next year. We have 12 classroom teachers, 3 academic interventionists, 4 special educators. We have our essentialists, our PE, art, music, library. We have a mental health clinician, a school counselor, and we also still have our integrated arts opportunity Studio Y. And this past year, some highlights of the past 2 years since we've been there is that we received a farm to school grant last year, which was $15,000 through the joint school district. We were able to put those funds towards prolonging our growing season. We were able to put a greenhouse out by our garden. We have chickens on campus. Students have ample opportunity to get outside and learn from our garden. Everything we harvest in our garden is then put back into our food services and into breakfast and lunch that are served to the students. We've also done a lot of instructional work over the past 2 years, moving our math and reading instruction into a workshop model, which has allowed us to really personalize our learning opportunities for our students and really fill in those gaps that might have been created through our COVID school schedule, which has luckily kind of evened out. We're back to school 5 days, as we all know. I'm just thrilled to be part of this community in this capacity, and thank you so much for today, and what a wonderful town meeting being outside like this. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Team?
I'm Teen BLC. I'm newly voted onto the Westminster School Board. I am a parent of 2 children at Westminster Elementary School. I also had the pleasure of working there last year. And Westminster's a really special place, and so I'm really proud to be able to serve on the board. Thanks.
And Cheryl Charles, who is chair of the board.
Well, let me do this. We didn't actually warn the article, so can I move it after? to hear the report of the Westminster Town School District officers and to take action thereon. I move the article as written. You had, okay. Oh, I thought we did. But I could not be more excited to have us officially bringing responsibility for the Westminster School back to the community. Thank you all for your support. There are so many individual people to thank, but it really would not have happened without the amazing, persistent, consistent efforts of so many of you, including former board chair David Major. So a little round of applause there as well. You recently re-elected or expanded the board officially. We are now a 5-person board. Because of the timing of the meeting and the change of the date, one new board member, Karen Blanchard, is not with us today. She had a pre-established trip. Jeff Karlstrom, married to Melissa Karlstrom. Melissa served very well for the last several years, is not able to be with us today. Teen Biolsi, thankfully, is. And the other member is Charlie Hutchison, who actually has COVID. So you have 2 of the 5 current board members here, but we are now back up to a 5-person board. We have in the document, in the town report, there are letters from Liz and from the board members. I would urge you to read them. We will not read them. Liz just gave you a good summary of what's in the principal's report. In the board members' report, I just want to say what a difficult and challenging year. I think Andy alluded to this. It's been for all our teachers, for the support staff, for everybody involved in the schools. 2 years of living with COVID and all the disruptions that has brought has truly, really had an amazing impact. So we cannot thank, as a community, the educators, the maintenance people, the custodians, the people who delivered the food, all of the folks who've made it possible for this to be as little disruptive as possible for all involved. So our great thanks to all the educators in the community. Thank you. There were 2 reports available to you. This one came out from Wyndham Northeast Supervisor Union, where Andy serves as our superintendent. Not an interim superintendent, by the way, our superintendent, and we're delighted to have him in this role. When I picked up the town report, the printed version yesterday, I was surprised that when you look at the Westminster school budget that you'll be voting on in just a few moments, the bottom line was missing. I mean, it was not in the book. And I'm not at all sure how that happened. I tried to call town hall yesterday. I figured this out at 4:20. So I called the supervisor union office, and the superintendent and staff made these extra copies for you. So the version you have does at least bring you to that bottom line. You know that there have been a lot of disruptions. You've read it in the paper, in the business office for the last 2 years at the supervisory union. Despite that, with volunteers, with school board members, with the dedicated staff who remain, and the new superintendent, who for a period of time has actually been working as the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, and the business manager all in one, all of us work together so that we really do have confidence in the numbers that we've given you. You will see, actually, because you can compare last year's budget, the budget we're currently operating in, with the one we're proposing to you, it's reduced by more than $500 million. And I will say that even though there are some fewer students in the school, the services we're providing them have not been cut. I'm prepared to take you through line by line if you have any questions where you can see big changes in the budget. We're simply prepared to do that. But we're not at that item yet. So maybe we should just move on to Article 17. David?
Yes. Are there any other items to take care of under this Article 16? Any further questions about the reports or anything like that? Okay, thank you. Article 17, shall the Westminster Town School District authorize and instruct its school directors and treasurer to borrow money if necessary on the credit of the town school district for its current expenses in anticipation of the collection of taxes and receipt of money due from state aid. What is your pleasure, school board?
I move the article as written.
Team Pelosi moves the article as written. Again, shall the Westminster Town School District authorize and instruct its school directors and treasurer to borrow money, if necessary, on the credit of the town school district for its current expenses in anticipation of the collection of taxes and receipt of money due from state aid. Is there a second? Yes, second from Barry Shamus. Any discussion on this article? Plenty of wind, I see, and people's going over. Budgets flying all over the place. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Article 18, shall the voters of the Westminster Town School District approve the school board to expend $4,618,770.34, which is the amount the school board has determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year. The estimated spending per equalized pupil resulting from this budget will be provided in a supplementary enclosure to this report as soon as the state determines the town's equalized pupil cost. School board, is there...
I move the article as written.
Cheryl moves the article as written. Is there a second? Yes. Sarah Waldo has moved or seconded the article. Any discussion? Perhaps, Cheryl, you want to give a little bit of explanation.
Sorry. All right, I think, yeah, can you hear me now? This is a little better, thank you. So since that article was written, our reports were written in January. Since that was written, we actually did get the statement from the state showing us our equalized pupil figure, and that is in your book on page 100. It can show you, because keep in mind, we were forcibly merged with Athens and Grafton in November of 2018. This is the third year that we've operated as the Windham Northeast Union Elementary District. But one of the good things to report about this is throughout the 3-year period, in our shared budget, we always had line items where we could identify costs specific to Westminster and Westminster's buildings and the costs specific to Athens and Grafton. We just did it that way for the entire, thank you, the entire period of time. So even these are when you see the whole figure for, I'm again looking at 100, it's the full budget from our unified district, but Westminster was about 70% of that budget and about 70% of the revenues that have come in from the two towns. So we're comfortable with these numbers. You can see in the final column with the figure of the proposed budget that David read aloud to you, the 4.6 or so million. That is solely for the operation of the Westminster schools and our assessment for the supervisory union services that include things like special education, transportation, and nutrition services for all the kids. I'll be happy to answer any questions that people might have.
Thank you, Cheryl. Any questions about the budget? And I'll repeat what Cheryl said. It is about $500,000 less than the Westminster portion was in last year, I believe.
In the current fiscal year.
In the
that's
current
correct.
fiscal year, yeah. The fiscal year for the schools goes July 1 to June 30. And part of that, the explanation for that, do you want to say a little bit about the explanation for that reduction, Cheryl?
Sure. One of the things that we discovered, and it'll actually come up in our report a year from now, but we had in the budget anticipated a few more 7th and 8th graders to request tuition than has been the case. We've dropped in terms of 7th and 8th grade students by some numbers in the last few years. The tuition numbers were in the current budget, in the one now, and in the one in the previous year at 1.2 million. It's budgeted in this current budget for 2023 at 880,000. So that's, you know, more than $300,000 reduction. That's a significant part of why this budget is lower. Another interesting thing, actually, Andy, I'd like you to speak to this for a minute, because there's a pretty significant reduction in the cost of special education services. And I think it's actually a good story.
So one of the things, because I was previously the director of student services for the last 3 years, we've really tried to work on is reducing the number of students who are placed out of district, because that is substantially the largest cost, because a student could be placed out of district at almost $100,000 for tuition. So we've really worked to try and reduce that number by building up the supports that regular education provides for students, so that we can provide for those students in our own buildings. And we control the curriculum, we control what's happening for those students. So that's been the most significant reduction. I'm trying to think if there was others. Yeah, okay, yeah, no.
And one other category is also an excellent just situation that has occurred. If you look at the food services number, it's the last section having to do with supervisory union assessments, the meals that families get. Maybe you all saw the boxes that were being sent home during the COVID period. Any family with children in the district could come get a box of nutritious food. We have our food services, nutrition services director for the whole of the supervisory union comes from Westminster, having founded and run our farm to school program here, which means that he initiated a program that was then, in the last several years, adopted by the whole supervisory union to bring as much locally grown healthy food into the buildings for breakfast and lunch every day as possible. He has also managed the money well enough with federal support that is a big drop in the budget when you look at that food services line. Very interesting. Again, his name is Harley Sterling. He started the program at our Westminster building when David was still school board chair. It's grown to the whole of the supervisory union, and Harley just got a statewide award for his innovation in food services. We're really proud of him and grateful, and this program will continue. Yeah, Patty's about to raise. Yeah, I know. It's a great program. And I think it's going to feed more into something Molly was talking about a little while ago. She mentioned Michael Stack, who has recently returned to the community. His family, part of the family are the Stickneys farmers. And his name, again, Michael Stack, he came back and founded Bellows Falls Trades. And he's really looking at having especially middle school students and high schoolers job shadow in the community, have internships, even paid internships, and we're looking to have a lot of that include the farms. I'm looking at Paul Harlow for a minute. We'd love to have more of, and David as well, more of the students, yes, learning electrical, yes, learning carpentry, yes, learning plumbing, but also learning these land-based practices in I think, another innovative, healthy approach to exciting and engaging ways to, to make schooling more fulfilling for everybody. I think you've got a question from.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Charlotte Gifford. I'd love to hear from the board some information that I found missing in the report. We've traditionally seen a good projection on enrollments for all ages coming up, and so I'd like to know what you know, if you can update us from whatever sources you have. Request a return to that past practice of having that data in the report. And finally, to ask, what is the school board doing to prepare for predicted, and I'll only say predicted, drops in enrollment? I'm also in education. I track the statistics in my area in higher education, and it is consistently going to drop for some time. So I think we need to have this information again, and I'd appreciate the information from the board. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. We'll be happy to include that information in upcoming reports. I just pulled from my files a document that I've gotten from Liz Hardy, the principal, that shows us from fiscal years 17 through 23, the numbers in K through 8th grade, and a total for each year. And whereas there's variability, Charlotte, it's still not clear with Westminster to what extent we will drop. But we'll take your point. It's absolutely make sure that we will make sure it's included in the reports going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. And Cheryl, any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 18, which reads, shall the voters of the Westminster Town School District approve the school board to expend $4,618,778.34, which is the amount the school board has determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year. The estimated spending per equalized pupil resulting from this budget will be provided in a supplementary enclosure to this report as soon as the state determines the town's equalized pupil cost. Is the motion. I'll just note that is in the town report on page 100, that last reference. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? The motion carries, and we move on to Article 19, to transact any other proper business to be brought before the town school district meeting.
I move the article as written.
Thank you. Team moves the article as written. Is there any, I don't think this requires a second. We'll go. Dan Axtell has words to say. Dan.
Under other business, I'm Dan Axtell. I'm Dan Axtell. I just wanted to note that there is a bill going through the House in Vermont, H727, and it was discussed at the last State Board of Education meeting. It is designed to address towns that withdrew from union school districts using the loopholes that the legislature never intended, and they are going to review towns that use the loopholes, and Westminster has never convinced anyone on the State Board of Education that it was a good idea to withdraw. So I'm just going to say that people shouldn't be surprised if in a year or so we're part of a unified K-12 school district, because it's not going to go away. And I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Dan. Any other discussion? Okay, Cheryl? Yeah.
Have it back on her. I wanted to add a point of information that we have one last step in our withdrawal from Windham Northeast Union Elementary School District, and that is to participate in a school district meeting that will be held on May 24th at 7 p.m. at the Grafton Elementary School. What's important about that, and there are related pieces of information, but we got the audit for finished June 30th, 2021 in the last 2 weeks. You know, you've heard the problems in the business office and the difficulties in getting a final audit. So we finally got those numbers. And we are looking now at a surplus from 2021 in the amount of $1.4 million that will be returned to the towns of Athens, Grafton, and Westminster. The Union Elementary School District Board and the Westminster School Board voted on the April 19th to approve a proposed allocation based on the revenues contributed by the towns in the form of taxes. So with that allocation that the boards have approved, Westminster will receive or at least is proposed to receive, more than $1 million. It will be then brought to us as revenue July 1 when we begin our responsibilities fully running this school district again. What's important about May 24th is that a sufficient number of our voters are there to approve that allocation. So we'll send more information out to you. This has just been scheduled, but I think I consider it, the last significant step is this meeting to approve the allocation to return money to these voters. And the new school board, then beginning our responsibilities fully, the 5-person board, July 1, will bring back to you our recommendations for how those funds be used. And you will be the ones who decide. So that's where we are with that right now.
Thank you, Cheryl. Any other business? I just want to say a couple of words of my own. Having been involved in the schools over the last few years, that the amount of work and the amount of dedication of the school board members has been extraordinary, because not only has there been a pandemic going on and all of the issues to do with the pandemic, there's also been the upheaval related to the forced unification of the school districts, and then the work to try to reestablish the town district here, which has been fully approved by Athens and Grafton, and it has also created extra work for Athens and Grafton, which they did willingly and happily, because this is an outcome that those towns have wanted and voted for. But and there has been a lot of upheaval at the supervisory union office. A little bit, Andy says, a little bit of upheaval. And so that has resulted in some of us, spending a day at the SU office helping mail out W-2 forms that weren't done right the first time, for instance. And it's been numerous months of many more than one board meeting per month, because we were on unified district or union districts, as well as a newly revived town district, and of course SU meetings, a great deal of them to deal with the other issues. So I just want to think that it's important to commend the school districts, all the employees really, and the volunteers. It's been a really pretty intense couple of years, and so thank you, school people. Okay. And then also in the thank you department, I want to thank Floyd Lawrence and company and family for providing the sound, and Fact TV for recording all this. So thank you. And then also the road crew that helped set up the area here and arrange for parking and so on and so forth. So thank you, road crew. And most especially, thank you all for coming. What's that? We're adjourned. Oh, yes, and we're adjourned.